What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the Giants kicked off mandatory minicamp today, and we got some cool highlights all over social media. Wan'Dale Robinson taking it to the house. Malik Neighbors doing his best OBJ impression, making some cool one-handed catches while warming up in the end zone. And some other players also standing out. I saw a nice touchdown pass from Tommy DeVito to Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson now obviously stepping into a much larger role with Darren Waller retiring from the NFL. So some key takeaways from the first day of OTAs. Also some injuries to discuss, but really a whole lot of excitement surrounding this New York Giants team right now as they get to practicing for the summer, and we get to see some more highlights of some of these really exciting players. In particular, I want to talk a lot about the rookies because it's been the rookie show basically for the Giants throughout OTAs and minicamp. Every piece of buzz and information that we've been getting surrounding this team, it's really been predicated on these playmaking rookies. Malik Neighbors, Theo Johnson, Tyrone Tracy Jr. Sounds like the Giants got some serious playmaking talent in this year's draft, and so far, minicamp OTAs, they're looking really solid. I'm excited to kind of discuss some of these players and dive into it, and really just keep you guys posted throughout minicamp, so of course make sure you're subbed. But Alex, before I turn it over to you, how are you doing today, my friend, and how are you feeling about some of these OTA standout players?
I'm feeling good, man. You want to know who's doing real well today? My guy Wan'Dale Robinson, who took a slant to the house. Love to freaking see it. I've been talking about this guy for the past couple of weeks as someone who I think can break out with Malik Neighbors, really drawing so much attention. Wan'Dale's going to be such an under-the-radar player. If you're a guy or gal playing fantasy football this upcoming season, if you're a sports bettor, Wan'Dale receptions for sports betting and PPR leagues for fantasy football, that is where I'm looking to stash and cash on Wan'Dale Robinson. Guy's going to be a really good asset for this Giants team for a very, very long time. I think he's going to be one of the better slot receivers in the league if he can get the football adequately in the offensive line, holds its ground. There is some updates here, some injury stuff we'll discuss, obviously. But, Anthony, looking at Wan'Dale, Malik Neighbors, you saw the one-handed catch. You see, he looks like a more built OBJ. And I said that on Twitter and be like, stop comparing them. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. All I was saying is he made a nice catch that reminded me of OBJ, the one-handed catches that he used to make. But he has a little bit more, muscle and tone to his build than OBJ did, who was a little bit slimmer when he came into the league. I mean, Neighbors is 20 years old, guys. This dude is going to be a star if all goes right. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy. The scheme's got to work around him. But the guy has got every single freaking tool that you want. He checks every single box. Elite speed, elite yards after the catch. Everything about him is just scream superstar receiver. Now it's about the Giants. The Giants just can't mess him up. It really will come down to, will the Giants mess this guy up or they let him be a superstar? That's kind of where I sit on the matter. But how do you think he benefits guys like Wan'Dale Robinson? What do you foresee this upcoming season for a guy like Wan'Dale coming out of the slot? How do they get him involved? And obviously, strong start to minicamp. Love to see that. I think he's going to have a big year.
Really strong start to minicamp for all of the Giants wide receivers. Obviously, Malik Neighbors making the one-handed spectacular catch in the end zone. I also got some of those comments when I tweeted about OBJ and Malik Neighbors. Guys, it's not that deep. You can make some comparisons. It's fun, right? OBJ, he was known for making the one-handed catches. So you see Malik Neighbors make a one-handed catch in practice that looks like OBJ. It looks like OBJ, and it's fun. And Malik Neighbors is going to make a bunch of one-handed catches and sick plays for the Giants that are going to be Malik Neighbors catches, right? They're going to remind us of Neighbors, not OBJ. He's going to make his own plays and have his own playing style. And his playing style is what's going to benefit Wan'Dale Robinson. Alex, as you were mentioning, he's a player who is kind of going under the radar, I think, for a lot of Giants fans. There's so much excitement about Neighbors and a lot of excitement about Jalen Hyatt right now as well that maybe some fans aren't realizing the potential impact that Wan'Dale Robinson might have on this offense. So when you're asking me what role he's going to play, of course, we know he's going to work primarily out of the slot, as he usually does, but it's really going to be on all those underneath routes. And now that we're seeing he's adding some more to his game with making some plays after the catch, Wan'Dale was always good after the catch, but he hasn't taken any slants to the house or done anything like that just yet. So seeing him do that in practice gets you excited, because if he can become one of those home run hitters who catches a pass underneath and just takes it all the way, that's going to be awesome for the Giants, and that's really going to expand the explosiveness of their offense. That's something that we do expect from Malik Neighbors as well, though. He has the ability to catch a 10-yard out route, and then all of a sudden he's up the sideline, he's gone and in the end zone. Now that the Giants have some more playmakers to stack on top of one another, it makes it really tough for defenses to game plan around their passing attack. Now, it's of course going to rest on the shoulders of the quarterback and whether or not the ball gets out in a timely and accurate manner to these wide receivers, but what we're seeing so far through training camp is that the Giants have a lot of talent in their receiving core. You're going to see some spectacular plays made from Malik Neighbors, but you're also going to see a lot of great plays made from Wan'Dale Robinson as a very reliable receiver underneath. Neighbors has the ability to move inside and outside, but when he's playing on the outside, you're going to see Wan'Dale Robinson on the inside making some plays out of the slot and just being that chain mover for the Giants offense, stacking receptions. So yeah, I agree with you, Alex. PPR leagues, I definitely want Wan'Dale Robinson. Definitely gonna take the over on his receptions more weeks than not. So he's a really exciting talent for this Giants team, as is Malik Neighbors. But there are some other wide receivers that we should discuss, Alex. 3 injuries to the wide receiver position today. I know you got some information on that. Darius Slayton got a little banged up. Bryce Ford Wheaton, also a little banged up. And there's a third guy who, honestly, I'm forgetting his name. It's not really like somebody that we're focusing on too much. But 3 wide receivers today injured, Alex. What is your takeaway on that? And kind of how nervous are you by the fact that the Giants are already feeling the injury bug a little bit here on the first day of minicamp?
Well, I can tell you one thing. Giants season is underway. Injuries already off the bat on minicamp opening day. You got Darius Slayton going down. Look, he slipped on a route, according to Dan Duggan. I think he's okay. He walked off under his own power. But then you have Bryce Ford Wheaton and Kata, who I think both had arm-shoulder injuries. Obviously, Bryce Ford Wheaton, day 1 going down. Not what you want to see for the former UDFA out of West Virginia. A guy who has really good speed, really good size, a lot of people's fan favorite. One of those like kind of David Sills, like we want this guy to make it type of player. This is not a good start for him. He's starting to gather the injury prone label, and that's not where you want to be if you're a young player trying to kind of make your way onto a roster one way or another. The Giants, good thing we signed a couple of guys for depth, but, Bryce Ford Wheaton going down, Carson Kata, these are depth pieces, probably practice squad players. Slayton's a little bit more serious. Obviously, it seemed like he was okay. I doubt he practices tomorrow. They probably give him the week off, but I think he's going to be all right. This is just classic Giant stuff. Obviously, it's going to happen. It's football. Injuries are going to happen when you're running and, trying to get back into things. Usually there's a couple of things like this early in camp when, guys aren't used to these types of movements just yet. And they've been doing a lot of training on their own. But then you get put into these, like, actual kind of drills and whatnot and quick turning, quick transitions. And sometimes you just needed some time to actually get back up to speed. And those injuries can pop up every now and then. But I'm not too concerned about it, to be quite honest with you. But, we saw a lot of action. Daniel Jones is not going to be, actually participating in, like, live action in these 11v11s. He's going to be more so just running, doing stuff that's non-contact and very basic until training camp comes around. Also, a little bit of an interesting conversation to have on Evan Neal. Neal is there. They said, I guess verbatim, backed off of Evan Neal in terms of getting him ready for minicamp. Apparently, his injury situation is not going so well. Apparently, the ankle injury that he did have, the surgery he underwent after the season ended, he's still rehabilitating from that, so he's not ready to return. That's not good, for Evan Neal. When you're looking at this offensive line, they need him to step up. They need him to develop. So he probably has not been working very much this offseason, which is concerning to me, Anthony. The fact that he's not ready to actually practice in minicamp, get involved, that means he has not been working on his stuff. That means he has not been working on his fundamentals and his technique this offseason for the most part. And that's really bad, right? Because he's needed to be working a lot every day on revising and refining those different things. So, right now, to me, it's Jermaine Illuminor starting at right tackle. I think they're getting Josh Azudu some experience there. He was running with the ones today. But I think the Giants know deep down Jermaine Illuminor is their starting right tackle. I just think they know he has enough experience there. He already has been in a Carmen Brasillo scheme, so he doesn't need to really get used to the blocking scheme. They already know he can just slide right in and be a competent player there. I think they're trying to get some other players some action in the meantime. What are you feeling about Evan Neal? And obviously the fact that, Azudu got some reps at right tackle today. I still think it's Jermaine Illuminor's job to lose.
I do think it's Illuminor's job to lose. I'm going to take that back. I think it's Evan Neal's job to lose still. I think that we probably do see Jermaine Illuminor start in that position and play there quite a bit during the season. I'm happy Josh Azudu is continuing to add another position under his belt. I mean, he's tried left tackle, left guard, and now right tackle. So if he can become that kind of Band-Aid player that Nick Gates used to be, start at any position whenever it's needed, that's great. Josh Azudu becomes far more valuable with the more positions that he's comfortable playing. But for Evan Neal, like I said, I still think that it's his job to lose. I'm not going to overreact personally to a mini camp storyline because it is just mini camp. And if you take a look at what Brian Dable was saying, essentially it was, we're going to back off to make sure that he's 100% healthy and can hit the ground running during training camp. There's only so much that offensive linemen do in mini camp anyway. They don't have the pads on. They're not facing off against the opposing pass rushers. So it's not like we were going to see any Brian Burns versus Evan Neal reps during the drills here anyway. So it's a mini camp, right? Training camp, though, when the pads are on and they're actually going after each other, then I need to see Brian Burns work Evan Neal, or I need to see Evan Neal actually hold his own against Brian Burns, one or the other. But also, on top of that, Pat Leonard of the New York Daily News did mention today that Evan Neal is following doctors' orders. He wanted to be on the football field, but the doctors told him, no, you're not allowed. You need to recover. You need to take more time to recover from your ankle surgery. So I think that it's going to be fine as long as he does participate fully throughout training camp. The question is, when will he be healthy enough to participate? Because it's already June. He's not healthy enough yet to participate. We've got about a month and a half until training camp kicks off. If Evan Neal is not ready to put the pads on when the Giants put the pads on and they get ready to do contact practices, then I'm going to be concerned, and then I'm going to say it's Jermaine Illuminor's job to lose. But right now, yes, he's missing minicamp. That's okay. He's got to recover from this injury, get back to 100% strength before he starts doing drills again. And once he gets to 100%, then we'll see him during training camp, and hopefully he's able to take that step forward and become a competent starter for the Giants in 2024. Now, again, whether or not that happens, it's probably not that likely. I've lost a lot of my confidence in Evan Neal, but I do still think it's his job to lose as long as he participates in training camp, and hopefully he'll play well there and he'll win the starting job. I would love to see that happen. It's just, my confidence level is continuing to drain on the daily for Evan Neal. I just don't want to overreact too much to him following the doctor's orders here and nursing his ankle surgery and continuing his recovery there. But Alex, I do want to talk about rookie running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. next because he's getting a lot of buzz right now. Art Stapleton said that he got a lot of runs with the ones today. Apparently got a lot of playing time with the first team in 11-on-11 drills and has really been standing out as a receiver out of the backfield, potentially making a push to be the Giants' primary running back on passing downs. That's from Art Stapleton. So I'm really excited about that, Alex. I wrote recently that I think he's a hidden gem that the Giants got in the 5th round. I know that we've praised Tyrone Tracy Jr. quite a bit here on this show. Really exciting talent, former wide receiver converted to running back, forced a ridiculous amount of missed tackles last season in his only season as a running back. I see so much potential with this kid, and I think that if he can continue to turn heads at practice, earn that playing time with the ones, and then compound that success in training camp and start to show that maybe he can break some tackles at the NFL level, hold in pass protection at the NFL level during training camp, we might see a lot of Tyrone Tracy Jr. as a rookie in 2024. So what is your reaction to Tyrone Tracy just kind of standing out here during training camp or during mini camp rather, and also the fact that Art Stapleton is saying he's trying to make a push for being the Giants' lead receiving running back?
Well, we love Tyrone Tracy in terms of his upside. Really not much work, at the collegiate level, not that many carries in general. A guy that was transitioned to receiver to running back. He had some of the best yards after contact numbers at the running back position in college football coming out of Purdue. This is a guy that has a very unique skill set. And you know me, I love mid-round picks, late-round picks that have some elite traits. This guy has a couple of elite traits, right? He has obviously elite ability to break tackles in the open field. I'd argue he's an elite receiver from the running back position because he's a transition player there. So he's an above average, maybe not elite, but I'll say he's an above average receiver at running back. And I'll say another elite thing I'd say is that he has low mileage. So he's 26 years old, sure, or 24, right? 24, I think. But he's young with his legs, right? So like you'd say the average running back has a lifespan of about 3 or 4 years in the NFL. This guy could have a 6 or 7 year lifespan because he has such low mileage, in terms of taking those hits, and his body hasn't taken the beating yet. So Devin Singletary, good player, really solid for this Giants team. A bargain bin shopping supplementary option to Saquon Barkley. By the way, Singletary thinks he's pretty good. I think Singletary is pretty good. They call him Motor for a reason. I think that Tracy's going to be a really nice complement to him. A lot of people are underrating this running back unit for the Giants. Ultimately, I think, having a great running back is a luxury, but it really comes down to the offensive line and opening up gaps. Devin Singletary is capable of, churning out yards, falling for first downs, doing the dirty work, but they just have to open up gaps for him to get through. He can break some tackles too, and I think the same thing for Tracy, who's more than capable of producing at the NFL level. So, especially on third downs, change of pace guy, put him in on third downs. Kind of maybe they can kind of use him like Nyheim Hines in a way with the Colts a couple years ago in terms of like get him out there, get him involved in the receiving game on third downs. He's a decent pass protector from the running back position. You can get creative with his usage. Maybe they do some dual running back kind of sets and have him run routes, and Singletary can be kind of an outlet option. We'll see what they do, but I think they should get creative with it because he's capable of a lot. Kind of this gadget asset the Giants have now at the running back spot. Can get a little bit versatile with how they deploy him on offense. So I think he's getting some attention for the right reasons, and the Giants probably got a nice player. They're going to get more value than they spent in terms of draft capital, in my opinion.
Totally agree with you. Really excited about Tyrone Tracy Jr. He's not the only rookie in. Guys, notice the trend. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we talked about Malik Neighbors, how he's been standing out of practice, making spectacular plays. Now we're talking about Tyrone Tracy earning reps with the first team. Now we got to talk about Theo Johnson, another rookie. The Giants had 3 skill position offensive playmakers that they drafted. All 3 of them have been standing out through OTAs and now into minicamp. Theo Johnson obviously stepping into a larger role now that Darren Waller has officially announced his retirement from the NFL. Theo Johnson has been catching touchdowns. He had one from Tommy DeVito. I loved the slow motion Tommy DeVito clip on social media today. I live for it. You guys know how much I love Tommy DeVito. I'm still a Tommy DeVito stan, still throwing up the pinched fingers every time he throws a pass in practice. I'm hyped up for my Tommy DeVito content. Saw a nice video of him today throwing a touchdown pass at Theo Johnson, and by all accounts, Theo Johnson has looked really good over at minicamp so far and throughout OTAs. And again, with him stepping into that larger role, Alex, it could mean a lot for this Giants team if Theo Johnson can continue to develop and become the starting tight end here, playing alongside Daniel Bellinger, of course. But he's looked really good, and I think there's a lot of potential there. If you guys remember when we did our breakdown of Theo Johnson shortly after he was selected in the 4th round, we mentioned his athleticism, his ability to make plays in space. He's a freakish athlete. He's 6'6". He runs a fast 40-yard dash. He jumps high. He's strong. He's physical. He can be that guy who goes vertical up in this offense, splits the seam, makes those plays in the middle of the field against the cover 2. Love the potential of Theo Johnson. I know because of that skill set that he possesses athletically, he could fit right into that Darren Waller role and play a lot of those positions that Waller was expected to play for this offense going into the season. So really like Theo Johnson. Excited by his development so far at OTAs and minicamp. Alex, how are you feeling about him as this rookie tight end potentially steps into a much larger role than he ever anticipated now that Darren Waller has retired?
Yeah, I mean, look, him retiring is ultimately good for the Giants in a couple different ways. One, they're able to clear that $11.6 million to allocate elsewhere. And then obviously, when you look at Waller's impact, it really was when he was healthy. Theo Johnson, 4'5'8", 40-yard dash. Dude has stupid athleticism, right? Like a guy that's 6'6", 255 pounds. You don't find players that move like this. The best thing I can compare him to is like a Jimmy Graham. You watch him play, he kind of moves like Jimmy Graham. I think the Giants should use him like Jimmy Graham. Attack the seams, be aggressive, create mismatches, red zone, absolute weapon in the red zone, in my opinion. Theo Johnson, this is the season where the Giants get the most and give the experience that some of their young players need. Let Theo Johnson grow. Let him get trial by fired in a way. I think it's essentially gets that experience this upcoming season, especially if the Giants, whatever they do at quarterback, let's say they stick with Daniel Jones, Theo Johnson is going to be an asset because they have developed chemistry. If they move on from Daniel Jones, Theo Johnson's ready to make an impact for a young rookie who can step in on day one and help this team if that's the direction the Giants want to go in. So I do think that Johnson's impact is essential. Daniel Bellinger's willing to do whatever it takes. I think that can be a fine combo deal. You look at kind of Dawson Knox with the Bills, and they have the other running back. His name's escaping me at the moment, but they have a nice combination of tight ends there. And I don't think that Dawson Knox is like crazy good, but I think that he's good enough. And I think that their other guy that I think is much younger, what was his name again? It started with a K. I feel like it's out the top of my tongue, but I can't remember it. Either way.
Kincaid.
Yeah, Kincaid. So Kincaid and Knox, they're not like crazy great, but they're pretty good, and they make impact. They make an impact. So I think you could kind of create a parallel to Bellinger and Theo Johnson being a similar type of group. I think Johnson's athletic profile allows him to have really like unlimited potential. So we'll see how they deploy him. But I think he will make an impact on day one. I think he will be a big part of their system. They didn't draft him to sit on the bench, that's for sure. And if Darren Waller's leaving, they need another receiver to kind of step up and fill that void. And I think that Theo Johnson certainly is in line to take those reps.
Agreeing with you for sure. I think that Johnson has the ability to play up the seam, like I said, be a vertical threat from the tight end position, and really be a dynamic playmaker in the tight end role rather than what Bellinger does is great. I mean, he's more of your traditional tight end in many ways. He's a good blocker. He's a good underneath receiving threat. But with Johnson, he's got that extra ability to go downfield and make some of those more dynamic plays, which really makes him an exciting player. And as a rookie, stepping into this offense with so many playmakers around him now, is at least what it looks like with Neighbors and Slayton and Wandale and Hyatt, all those guys on the outside, the middle of the field should be open more often than not in this Giants offense. So again, it's going to rely on the quarterback to get the ball into the hands of the receivers, and we'll of course continue to talk about that throughout the offseason. But one last player that I do want to put on the radar of Giants fans listening to the show, Alex, Andrew Phillips, another rookie. Got to point that out, but he had an interception today, and I think that if he continues to play well and proves that he can be the Giants starting slot cornerback, well, that does move Cordell Fly over to the outside like the Giants want him to be playing that position, and maybe does open the path eventually for them to bring in a cornerback. I know that they did interview with one or have one in for some sort of workout today. So Giants thinking of adding another veteran to the mix at CB, but also having Andrew Phillips stand out in the slot, getting an interception today. Some important stuff there, important developments for what I believe is the weakest position unit for the Giants entering this offseason, or entering this regular season rather, is the cornerback spot. So seeing Andrew Phillips make some plays, exciting. Seeing that the Giants are thinking about bringing in a veteran cornerback, also interesting. So, Alex, I know that you have some more information on that veteran cornerback and your thoughts and opinions on him, and also want to hear how you're feeling about Andrew Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, look, Phillips had that interception today, as you referenced. It was a diving catch after a tipped ball, I believe. So, you'll have to have players, right place, right time. A lot of players make a lot of money doing just that, just being in the right place. So, it kind of reminds me of Julian Love. He just always managed to be like in the right place at the right time when those interceptions were like tipping off players, those balls. So, I do think that Andrew Phillips showcasing that ability is really solid. Obviously, right off the bat, rookie competing in the slot. Now, the Giants did bring in one veteran for a workout, Trey Herndon, another primary slot cornerback. So he spent last season with the Jacksonville Jaguars, gave up I'm just trying to remember what the numbers were. I think 428 yards. He gave up 3 touchdowns and had 6 pass breakups. So, this is a guy that has a lot of experience. He's cheap. He's someone that comes in and immediately gives you depth interior at the nickel spot. And I think the Giants actually are starting to think about moving Darnay Holmes outside, or at least they're giving him reps doing it. Today he was getting some opportunities on the boundary, which is where he played at UCLA, by the way. And I think that's a really good move. I've been waiting for this for a long time. He never was really that good in the slot. I think he's actually better suited for the outside. So we'll see how he kind of operates and how they get him involved. But Herndon, primary slot guy, probably competing with Andrew Phillips and Darnay, but getting these guys a little bit of cross-training. Also, by the way, Nick McLeod spent some time in the slot as well. So the Giants are kind of mixing and matching, seeing who sticks, seeing who steps up. I like this. Let there be an open competition. Let the best man win. You never know what you have until you try. So I do think that Herndon's an interesting player. He's not that good. He's a veteran. He's a free agent for a reason. But the Giants do have a little bit of money to spend. I think they are looking for depth pieces.
Yeah, 100%. And they do have some money to spend now with Darren Waller retiring, $11.6 million in extra salary cap space. But as I mentioned yesterday in our episode reacting to Darren Waller's retirement, I do think the Giants should wait before they make any potential splash signings with that money. But right now, Trey Herndon, a veteran guy who you're probably getting on the minimum, who you're bringing in as a camp body who may or may not make the roster, I think that's a pretty good acquisition if they do make it. But also, it is exciting to hear that the Giants are mixing and matching, as you said, all of their cornerbacks, moving them all over the place. It's good to have versatility. It's good for any of these players to practice at any single one of these positions, left boundary cornerback, right boundary cornerback, and on the inside, because you really never know what your personnel is going to look like once you're in week 15. There could be injuries, there could be inconsistent play. Guys got to move around. Guys got to be comfortable playing in more than one position. So it is very important to see these cornerbacks standing out in more than one spot. And I do like that the Giants are testing their players all over the field and ironing out exactly what they want this defensive lineup to look like once we get into the regular season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Alex, are there any other players who stood out to you that you maybe want to touch on before we wrap this up? I will say, Tommy DeVito throwing touchdowns. Love it. I'm hoping that one day he is the man who leads us to the promised land. I want to see Tommy DeVito hoist the Lombardi trophy. I know that it's a pipe dream, very unlikely, but it is my dream, and it is one that I will continue to wish upon a star for. But, Alex, any other players who stood out during the first day of minicamp?
I will say, I want to say Allen Robinson had a pretty good day today. I always forget that he's on this team, to be honest with you. So nice depth receiver to have, especially because, that experience is imperative, especially when you have like him as a backup. You need someone to step in, fill an injury. He can do it with flying colors. He's not a primary starter anymore, in my opinion, but he certainly can step in and contribute if called upon. So I think Allen Robinson had a pretty solid day. Aside from him, I can't recall much. I know Bobby Okereke spoke to the media. Obviously, great dude. Spoke really highly of the new defense. Really interesting kind of conversation he had with the media. He said someone asked him about the difference between Wink Martindale's defense and Shane Bowen's defense. And he basically said Wink Martindale asked him to just ask those guys to be downhill, aggressive, get involved, and just stop the run, and just basically play hard. This is a little bit more different. He says they're more like checking to different reads, 2 to 3, and being a little bit more I guess strategic with how they're going through their process and not just like go crazy type of thing. So I think there's a little bit less like be free, but be more calculated in your decision making. So kind of an interesting conversation that he had. A guy that I'd love to get back on the podcast at some point if he has time. Obviously he was here last year, so maybe we'll learn a little bit from him if we can figure that out. But really interesting kind of insight into the defense there. But I think that's pretty much the most of it, the gist of it from today's minicamp. I'm sure there'll be more very soon, and obviously over the next couple of days as things unfold. But a lot happened today on day one. I think there was a lot of takeaways and pretty good ones.
For sure. I think there was a lot of excitement generated, like a lot of reasons to be excited with what the Giants did in the first day of minicamp. And so, it's only minicamp, so how much stock can you put into the fact that Theo Johnson and Tommy DeVito are connecting on deep touchdown passes? Well, because it's Tommy DeVito, I'm going to put way too much stock into it. But overall, it is just minicamp, and we know that this is just the first set of practices that ramps them up, and then boom, training camp next month. That's when it gets really important, where we really start to see these players competing for their jobs. Right now, they're just competing to show the team what they have and where they're going to fit in. Once we get to July, man, it's players playing for their jobs and playing for their futures, and that's always exciting. But it's going to be a really exciting offseason nevertheless. With the mini camp practices, we're going to continue to hit you guys with all of the takeaways. If there's any injuries, any transactions, any updates, all of them right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.